We're live, so we'll be back in a few minutes.
Perfect.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Bridges Conversations. My name is Steve Givens. I'm the Executive Director of the Bridges Foundation here in St. Louis. We are an organization that offers an experience of the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius Loyola in everyday life. And about once a month, we gather with some of our friends, either here in St. Louis or elsewhere, to talk about all things Ignatian. So today, we are going to be speaking with two friends here in St. Louis about one of our members of our local, we call it the St. Louis Ignatian family. So people that are doing complementary things. And so today we're speaking with Christy Hicks Aydt. She is the regional director of the Ignatian Volunteer Corps here in St. Louis. And we're talking with Christi Franko-Torack, who is a current service corps member, someone currently involved in Ignatian Volunteer Corps. And she's also a current retreatant on the Bridges Retreat. So we're going to call, we got two Christies here today, which can be very, and we didn't want to get into the whole Christy with a Y, Christy with an I thing. So it's going to be Christy, and we're going to call Christi Franko-Torack CFT. So hopefully you can follow that. Welcome to both of you.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. So let's begin, as we kind of always do here, with some introductions. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, your family of origin, your religious upbringing, if you had such a thing, maybe a little bit about your family now, your career, and kind of how you came to discover the world of Ignatian spirituality, all that, 2 minutes. So Christy Hicks, we will start with you.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for the opportunity to be here and also to talk a little bit about Ignatian Volunteer Corps as well. So I am currently living in St. Louis with my husband, Bob. I got married to him in 2019, and we have 3 stepkids. In my family of origin, I'm the oldest of 3, and I suppose my faith lens and faith story is really, I really experienced growing up and being baptized Catholic and also going to Free Methodist Church because my grandfather was a Free Methodist minister. He co-witnessed my parents' marriage with a priest, and my parents in their early life story together decided they're going to baptize the girls Catholic and the boys Free Methodist, which later on, it really shifted and changed, but that is how it started out for us. And so I didn't really distinguish too much between Christianity in the Catholic world and Christianity in the Free Methodist world. But I've always had a very active prayer life. I was taught prayer from both of those lenses and engaged in my spirituality pretty early in my life, certainly in my childhood, but it also was activated and I felt very wooed by the Holy Spirit or by God in my teenage years.
All right. And how did you make your way to kind of an experience of the spiritual exercises or to Ignatian spirituality? How did that happen?
Yeah. So again, Ignatian spirituality happened pretty early in my life because I was a Jesuit volunteer in Alaska. And even before that, I took a course in college, and it was just a Catholic course, maybe an overview of different theologies. And I was always kind of engaged by Ignatius and discernment and all the things that happened there. But it came back to me very specifically in the context when I was working in campus ministry at St. Louis University, I think from 2013 to 2023 approximately. I was there for 10 years, and I was in active spiritual direction training when the opportunity to go through the exercises came up, and I readily said yes to that. I did not go through the exercises through Bridges. I was directed by a Jesuit priest at College Church at the time.
Yeah, thank you. And you are one of our, we call them prayer companions in the Bridges program. You're one of those who helps others through the spiritual exercises. So thank you for that. CFT, tell us a little bit about your story.
Sure, yes. So I grew up in the Midwest, one of three girls, and faith was something that was very important to both my families, or both my parents rather. They were raised Catholic, went to Catholic grade school, high school, and met at a Catholic university, University of Dayton. And they got married young before my mom graduated, and we eventually moved to Indiana. And I can remember Father Komesher coming to visit, and I'm not sure if he was giving my mom final exams or what exactly, or continuing the education. Certainly this was long before virtual learning. But, somebody that was part of our life growing up. And, one of my sisters ended up going to the University of Dayton and cooked for the priests and Father Komesher. So I would say religious individuals were around our family. I did not grow up going to Catholic schools, but as a young family, we participated in a family religious education program. And then when we moved, I attended CCD. So certainly exposed, and it was, faith being part of my foundation. In my early 20s, different roommates in Columbus and Chicago, and sort of always found myself with a Catholic friend. My roommate in Columbus convinced me we should teach CCD, so we did that. And so always certainly something that faith and religion was part of my life, but I would say it's more recent evolution to focusing on spirituality as part of that. In terms of my own family, I'm married with 2 children, and it was really my son who, when he attended SLU High, that exposed me to Ignatian spirituality. And so that was sort of my first awareness of Ignatian spirituality and all that is about, and really seeing his personal growth when he was there and exposed to that was sort of my entree.
Gotcha. Perfect. Well, today, as I mentioned earlier, we are talking specifically about the Ignatian Volunteer Corps, which may be something that those who are listening to this know about it and maybe not. So I'm going to circle back to Christy Aydt now, and just, can you tell us a little bit about IVC, what it is, a little bit of its history, who's it for, what's involved? Just kind of give us an overview of that.
Sure. So I think that IVC was founded actually in 1995 by 2 Jesuit priests, Jim Conroy and Charlie, I had to look it up, Confell. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but they're both Jesuits. And the first 3 communities were Washington, Baltimore, and Philadelphia. St. Louis started about 10 years later. And so now it's an organization that is all throughout the United States, and mostly in the cities. Not all of the big cities have IVC, but we also have a virtual person. So even in the smaller towns, I think she's able to reach them, and if people are interested. But it really pulls from mostly retirees. We say ages 50 and older. And what the assumption is that you've had a full career and that you're able to share. God is not done with us when we retire, right? That there's so many other gifts that we share. So many of these Service Corps members join IVC and will often stay with their partner sites for multiple years. The original vision, and I had to look this up recently, is it had to do with continuing the full participation, which Vatican Council II calls us to, which I think is very much in alignment with, this is the year that Pope Leo is called catechetical around, especially reminding people of the Vatican II documents.
So these are retirees or people of retirement ages who are maybe looking to do something a little different or more with their lives. So what's involved for those who sign up for IVC?
Yeah, so it is also a formation program. So we're engaging the Service Corps members around Ignatian spirituality. They meet once a month. They also have the opportunity or are invited to meet with a spiritual reflector. And their spiritual reflector is like a spiritual director, but they also assist them to process the experience that they have in their partner site and listen for what is taking place there and maybe invite them a little bit more deeply. So they volunteer. The commitment is usually end of August, early September through June of every year. So we do take the summer off, and they volunteer anywhere from 8 to 16 hours a week at their partner site.
And what are these sites like? What do they have in common? And maybe give us an example of some of them.
Yeah, so I do have a list of the sites that I'll share with you, but the sites are, the main thing is that they're serving mostly marginalized persons or building up communities in some way. And so I have kind of a list that I'll share, but I also have them kind of in themes. So I'll share the themes first. So criminal justice and ex-offenders for the developmentally disabled, some food, employment, and utility assistance, the healing journey. We all need healing, but sometimes anything particular to healing, health and adult care, immigration and refugee services, and then education and legal services, and then teaching children or tutoring, and then women and children. So those are, and I can just give a few examples of each of those. So criminal justice, there's a criminal justice ministry. For employment, there's we have and food assistance. We have a couple of food pantries. The healing journey, a place called Healing Action, which is for human trafficking, and Ignatian Spirituality Project, which serves really like addicted and often homeless persons. The healthcare piece, we work with the Archdiocese. There's a place called Rural Parish Clinic, which goes around rurally to a variety of places. We also, St. Ignatius Hall is a part of the Jesuits, so a lot of the retired Jesuits are there. And yeah, those are just a few examples. There's also Our Lady's Inn, which Christy has been at, that works with women. And then we're at 3 schools, Marian Middle School, Loyola Academy, and St. Francis Cabrini Academy.
And the people that are coming to this as volunteers come from a rich and diverse a range of backgrounds. Is this a chance to perhaps use the skills that they have picked up over the course of a lifetime and apply those to these sites, or does what they do there not really reflect what they did for a living, or what's the work like, I guess?
Yeah, I would say they would absolutely use the skills, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do the same type of work or in the same type of context that they are volunteering at. They choose the partner sites based on their energy and their calling and what gifts they have, And I always think vocationally, I mean, you may have had, even if you've had one career path your whole life, which is not necessarily true these days, but you still have so many vocations within you. So, I mean, many people have had families, many people have had the career of their choice. And so I think I would say it's vocational regardless of how it shows up, but certainly many of them will use their wisdom and insights from 40 or 50 years of a career, but how that connects to the specific site might be very specifically related to their work, or it could be complementary to it.
They may just show up and work in the food pantry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has nothing to do with the fact that they were a lawyer or whatever.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And you touched on this, but let me just ask one more question before we move on to CFT. How is this different than just kind of showing up to, be a volunteer somewhere? What's the difference in being involved in the Ignatian Volunteer Corps?
Oh, sorry.
Chris,
I thought you said CFT. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Can you ask the question one more time?
Sure. So what's the difference between just showing up to be a volunteer somewhere and being a member of the Ignatian Volunteer Corps? I'm sure it has something to do with that formation part that you mentioned earlier, but if you could just touch on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, the very first thing that strikes me, and I've heard this since I've started in August, is I think of the service corps members as wisdom figures, that they have had a lifetime of experience. And even to me, I feel very blessed to be working with all of them and feeling the wisdom of each person that I get to work with. But they also, in the context of the place that they're working, I think they show up that way. But the placements often tell me they love working with IVC because they're committed. They come, they always show up when they say they're going to. They communicate well. And beyond that, even if you have a long-term, like I did JVC, so if you have a long-term year commitment and those people are very committed, they're usually only there for 1 year, whereas IVC, many of them stay at their partner sites for multiple years. So I think they are able to share their gifts with a little bit more longevity than your typical volunteer. But all volunteers are wonderful. So I just want to name that too.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, let's switch to Christi Franko-Torack, who we're calling CFT today. Christy, as I ask you this question, maybe first just do give us a little bit of sense of your professional background. So, what is it that you're bringing to this experience? And then just tell us a little bit about your experience in IVC, how you came to be involved, where you served, what did you do there, and maybe what you've learned along the way. So.
Sure. Great. Thank you. So it's interesting. Christy just mentioned that God is not done with us when we retire. And I would say that God actually called me to retire. So I ended my professional career as the director with Deloitte, which is a professional services firm, and I led account management for the US. And so over the years that I was with them, that translated to lots of hours and lots of travel. And I had a personal motto during that time that I had adopted from my mother. When she was battling cancer, she said that faith, family, friends, and fun. And if it didn't fit into one of those categories, she didn't have time for it. And she battled cancer for a number of years. But when she passed away, I adopted that. And so I would talk about that and I'd share that with my team. And I'd have people come and say, I love that you acknowledge that faith is part of your life, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality was the way I spent my time wasn't reflective of that motto. And so I did some discernment about what was next and decided to retire early and to be more present before my kids graduated from high school, and really to focus on that motto of faith, family, friends, and fun, and in particular, those first two things. So it was, as I was looking to explore, how do I sort of deepen that faith, that brought me to IVC. And there were some other service things. And I mentioned earlier that faith was always sort of part, but not not really understanding what it meant to the difference between faith and spirituality, right?
Mm.
And so as I looked at some service things, what was unique about IVC was that connectivity of the faith, the service, and the spirituality. And so that's really what drew me specifically to IVC and has held true. As Christy mentioned, my volunteer site is Our Lady's Inn, which is a homeless shelter for expectant mothers and their children, if they have them, which many of them do. And what does a day look like there? It can be any number of things. So it can be driving mothers to a doctor's appointment or continuing education or looking for work placement. It can be helping in the office. Something that's second nature from my professional world is anything related to computers or a spreadsheet. And so something that might take another volunteer or worker hours to do, I can just do that. Helping with serving lunch, making lunch. So it can any number of things depending on the day is what I do there.
Have there been any moments, kind of special moments, stories that kind of stand out in your mind that might help illustrate, the impact that this has had on you?
Yeah. And I think that impact on me is really important. And you were talking about putting your skills to work. And is that part of IVC, putting your professional skills to work? And I remember feeling that I wasn't doing enough, right? Because I was used to constantly being busy and always active. But that's not necessarily the impact, right? And I was sharing at a monthly IVC meeting with Peggy, who's another woman that volunteers at Our Lady's Inn on days that I don't. And I said, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. And, my brain was going to all these supply chain things with the donations that came in and how much more efficient that could be. And we send stuff across the street. And she said, you know what, Christy, sometimes the most important thing you can do is just greet the mothers, smile, look them in the eye, call them by their name. And you may be the only person that treats them with kindness that day or acknowledges them that day. And so sometimes that's the most important thing you can do. And so I reflected on that, and actually that came to bear with one of my key learnings, which I can share now or I can share in a bit.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. What do you feel like is one of your key learnings from this experience?
Yeah, so I'll share a story that happened after Peggy had shared that with me, and I really, was reflecting on that. And there was a mom that was speaking with a staff member, and she had a small toddler that lived in the home with her, but she also had another daughter that I don't know where she was living, but was there that day. And so I knew the toddler. And so she and I were kind of playing in the office while her mom was talking to someone else. And the young grade school sister said, well, I want to do that too. And so all we were doing was like walking around the office. So I took the older child, the grade school child, and took her hand, and we just did a circle around the hallway. 2-3 minutes. That was it. We get back into the office, and she gives me this huge hug and says, that was the greatest day ever. And one of the things that taught me was how important that message of Peggy was, right? It's about presence, and it's about acknowledging the person. And oftentimes I think we feel like we need this big chunk of time to make a difference or to connect with someone. And it really only takes 2 or 3 minutes to be fully present and see the other person, whether it's a child or an adult, it doesn't matter, but really seeing somebody, I think is one of my key learnings and growth areas to really see each person and just take a minute to see somebody.
Yeah, and how important that is. Yeah. We have a few viewers on and off the call here watching us on Facebook Live. If you're there and you have a question for either one of our guests, please feel free to put that in the comment section, and I'll see it. This is a kind of question for both of you, but we'll go back to Christy first. What do you think is the connection or the easy connection that you make or that you help the volunteers who are called Service Corps members make between Ignatian spirituality and this kind of service in the world. So kind of might seem obvious to you or to other people, but how does all this come together in kind of an impactful way? Christy.
Yeah. So I think the thing that I've been praying with, or maybe it's just what's on my current mind, is the Pope Leo the 14th gave a message to the Jesuits in October, and he just reminded them of who they are. So that's the whole congregation throughout the world, is that the church has always had you on the margins. Please stay there. You're at the frontiers of what the church is doing in the world, right? And so it's the margins and the frontiers, but he very specifically says the frontiers are not places that have easy navigation, systems. Like we have to kind of be creative about how we navigate those spaces. And so I think you may have to remind me of the rest of that question, Steve. Sorry.
That's okay.
I thought there, but yeah.
No, I think you've addressed that, and CFT may want to jump in here too if you want to, but just kind of how do these kind of ideas of Ignatian spirituality, that we are called to, to find in our purpose in life and put it to use, how we're called to, find God in all things. It's that, motto of almost all, how does that come together in an experience like this? So CFT, you want to address that in any way?
Yeah, I think one of the things for me is a number of years, 20 plus years, I was involved with WashU's Center for Experiential Learning, and particularly their program, Tailored Community Consulting Program, where nonprofits submit projects and the students execute those projects for the nonprofits. And so I was involved in terms of talking a little bit about consulting, at times mentoring the team, sitting in on the panel. And so I had this awareness of many of the nonprofit organizations in the St. Louis area, and sort of an indirect way helping them with, process or marketing or business, et cetera, and how different that is between what I'm doing now with IVC and walking with those individuals that those organizations serve. So, and it kind of goes back to my example of just 5 minutes of connectedness with those who need help in some way, and helping them by walking with them, not just serving them from afar. I think that is one of the things that is different. And philanthropic support and money is super important to make these organizations operate, and just a little bit of time with one another can even just exacerbate that and accelerate that in a big way.
Thank you. We're coming up on a half hour here. Christy, can you talk just a little bit about what if people are hearing this and they're thinking this could be of interest to them, what's the best way for them to reach out and learn more?
Yeah. And Steve, I think you already put the website up there, but I would visit the website. There is both the local St. Louis website and the international, or the national. IVCUSA.org is national. And then if you can get directly to St. Louis, my contact information is on both of those. So certainly you would be welcome to reach out to me by phone or email. Email is sometimes a little more convenient. I'm always happy to talk to you, but I also like to send information your way once I receive an email and assist you to discern your interest. Also, I would say if you're a partner site or a place that this feels right for you, you could always reach out to me as well to discern whether or not you would be a good placement for a Service Corps member.
Great. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for joining us today. I am still pulling together the schedule for our upcoming episodes. I usually have one arranged right now, but we had a little hiccup, so we'll be letting the community know about the next episodes through Facebook and through email. So keep on the lookout for that. in the meantime, thanks again to both of you for being here. And this recording will be available on Facebook. It'll be available on YouTube and also on the Bridges website. If you prefer to listen to these things, our podcast audio version of this will come out as a podcast within a day or two. So subscribe to Bridges Conversations wherever you get podcasts. So thank you very much, and we'll see you all next time. All right, you guys hold on just a minute.